Hey now, everybody. I've had a lot of people reach out to me this week regarding like a midweek update, so we're giving it to you. I'm going to call it the Midweek Migraine because every week about this time, Tuesday, Wednesday, early Thursday, I get an extreme headache because everything I thought was going to happen last week in the NFL, some happened, some didn't. And now it dictates what I'm going to pick for next week, and I'm holding myself accountable. Coming to you every week since week 5 with the pick'ems. Last week, 3-3 straight up, 3-3 against the spread, so I really didn't give myself too much headway. My upset special did come in, but then again, I should have probably parlayed the upset special and taken Houston as well because they took Cincinnati. So what I'm going to do with the migraine here is I got my cell phone here. I'm gonna go right down the standings, as you can see, and we're gonna tell you, what my feelings are on teams that are in the playoff mix. So we got the Patriots. I mean, they're only gonna have to really work with the Edelman thing. This is what you need to know about the Patriots. Regardless of who's in there, they're gonna find a way to do it. Look at their offensive line. That's a microcosm of their entire team. Cincinnati, tough loss at home. More so, Houston showed me something. I'm not too concerned with Cincinnati. They should make the playoffs. They look to be dominant in that division, but certainly a chink in the armor. But Houston proved more to me. They could be a contender down the stretch, not a team you might want to play. Then you have Denver and poor Peyton Manning. I feel for this guy, and not that anybody in New England does, but you got to figure, you guys have treated him as a doormat for the last 15 years. Now he has a chance to pass Brett Favre yard wise and for the total number of wins. And what a disaster that game was. Denver also exposed defensively. I feel like you could get to them. I mean, I know Talib was out and I know Ware was out, but nonetheless, Denver somewhat concerned. Can they hang around and keep these other teams at bay? The Oaklands, the Kansas Cities that are at 4-5 and on their way up. Then I have Indy. Indy, 4-5, holding on to a lead. Houston also at 4-5. Indy has the tiebreaker. Without luck for a couple weeks now, let's see what they can do. I'm pretty high on Houston if they can find a way. I like Hoyer. I like Hoyer. So Indy, I think is going to have some trouble. I know they play Houston one more time at Indy, which could be a benefit to them. Pittsburgh. I love what I see with Pittsburgh. One of the conveniences that I had last week, speaking of migraines, I didn't start Ben, but I started Kirk Cousins. So I had Ben on my bench. I had Kirk Cousins going. Antonio Brown, 8. So I had a big win last week. So I'm 7-3 in one, 9-1 in the other. But Pittsburgh, they look like they're going to be back on track here. Ben he looked to be comfortable despite having to come in. He passed, he blew it out 250 yards passing in the first half. So I think Pittsburgh has Mike Tomlin and Ben, they've righted that ship. And they're on their way to hopefully a successful postseason. Always good when Pittsburgh's in it. It always brings a little bit of more pulp with it. Then you have Buffalo. Huge win for Rex Ryan last Thursday. I mean, they gave the Jets every opportunity to try to win that game despite the Jets' 4 turnovers. I think they've turned the corner now. It went from, he's huffing and puffing. Now he's got a quality win. They come to New England next Monday. I'm excited to pick that game. I'm excited for that game. We'll see what happens. Typically, Rex doesn't have a great record against Belichick, but he plays them tough. So let's see if that can continue. We know what happened earlier when New England ran away with the lead. Buffalo fought back, but nonetheless a convincing win for New England. Now you have the teams on the bubble in the AFC. Jets, Kansas City, Oakland, Miami, Houston, all at 4-5. These are the teams I'm worried about. I'm worried about my Jets. I'm worried about the Oakland Raiders. Can they sustain? I mean, this is really a transition year. And I'm also worried about the Miami Dolphins because you got a change in coaching. They rode the Lightning a little bit. They have their good games. They have their bad games. They looked great last week. I thought the Eagles were going to run away with that game, and I don't know what was said or what changes were made, but next thing you know, they're walking away with a victory. So we'll see what happens with Miami. I'm not sold on them. Teams I'm high on. I'm high on Kansas City. Andy Reid, every year he's going to be in it. I mean, he's like Belichick. You could knock him down, beat him up. He finds a way every week. They're competitive every single week. And even when they get blown out, which never happens to Billy, even when they get blown out, they come back, they find a way. They impressive performance this past week at Denver. Unbelievable. So they're in the mix. And I also have Houston. Houston really impressed me with their defense. I like them to be around. I'm not going to say they're going to make the playoffs, but it's certainly wide open. I mean, you've got Indy at 4-5. You've got Buffalo at 5-4. This is a crucial week. The Jets play Houston. Houston could get to 5-5 and drop the Jets to 5-5. That would also give them the tiebreaker. Jacksonville also looking decent. They had a nice win last week, even though the NFL apologized and said it shouldn't have been a win. Guys, get it together here. $9 billion a year organization. Get it together here. Stop apologizing for things that you should get right the first time. So that's the AFC. Now over to the NFC. NFC, very exciting. Carolina, just chugging on like a juggernaut. 9-0. Cam continues to get better every week, continues to show more leadership, continues to look more comfortable. The defense, they have their highs, they have their lows, but all in all, they seem to be on the same page. And much like anything in the NFL, the defense is going to get better as games get played. Offense is going to get better. With Carolina, they started with a good defense. Now they could have an exceptional defense come the end of the year. It's certainly leaning in that direction at 9-0. Then you have Arizona. Arizona with a misstep a couple weeks ago, right back on track, going to Seattle, a place they know it's tough to play, a place they needed to win because they got Cincy coming to town next week, this Sunday night. Great Sunday night and Monday night games this week. Very excited for that. But they got Cincy coming to town, so Arizona really needed that win in Seattle. I picked against them. I thought Seattle was really feeling the desperation. It just didn't look like they could get, they didn't have enough bullets. It just seemed like every time they were getting ahead and looked like they were going to take momentum, boom, Carson Palmer, they drop a play, whether it's Ellington, whether it's Larry Fitzgerald, whether it's Michael Floyd, everybody's scoring on that team. I like Arizona. I like their offensive line, and I like their defense. Those are two things you need to have to go deep in the playoffs. Minnesota. Great pick for me last week. I took them getting points. I was kind of surprised. They've done well. Coming to Oakland. I know Oakland was the hot team, but Minnesota, now the road to the playoffs seems to go through them. Green Bay, who was tied with them, who looked to have a commanding lead, has lost 3 games in a row. I don't think it's ever happened in Aaron Rodgers' career. The last time they lost back-to-back was 2010 or 2011, whatever it was. Now they've lost 3 in a row. Green Bay. But ahead of Green Bay, in that playoff picture, you have the New York Football Giants, who put on a great display. But it's just like anything, man. You got to finish. You got to close these games out. They had a couple chances. Odell took the blame. Then there was the 4th and 10. Brady gets the first. Then there's the interception. He can't get. There's 1,000,001 excuses. All you need to know is you got to play 60 minutes of football. The Pats seem to do it better than anybody. But the Giants looked sound. They could be a team that if they can get healthy, they just signed Hakeem Nicks. I'm not saying he's going to be a miracle worker, but it'll at least give you another jump ball in that red zone area. So let's see what the Giants can do. They seem to have a commanding lead. You got Washington and Philadelphia nipping at their heels at 4 and 5, but they're in with a slew of people at 4 and 5. We'll get to that. We talked about Green Bay, how it's a fall from grace. They've been exposed. And I saw Deion Sanders talking about it. I don't necessarily like agreeing or disagreeing with things that I hear or say, but this is really a tough spot for Green Bay because at the beginning of the season, their goal is to go to the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl. And it looks like it's going to be very, very difficult for them to, A, do so, and B, even get there. I don't know. It doesn't look like the playoff home field won't go through Green Bay. It doesn't seem to be the case unless it's a catastrophe at the top 3 seeds. But now they got to go on the road. You know how hard it is. Their defense looks like it has some holes. Certainly the loss of Jordy Nelson is rearing its ugly head. It doesn't look like these guys can get healthy. James Jones, Devontae Adams on offense, Randall Cobb. One guy's always banged up. And Eddie Lacy, is that going to be the rumor on these Alabama running back? Trent Richardson. I don't know what he's doing. You got Eddie Lacy. This guy's out. He's out. These Alabama running backs, I love them, but I don't know what happens to them. I don't know if they just can't handle the offense or whatever the case is, but Eddie Lacy not helping the Green Bay Packers cause. And then you have Atlanta at number 6. Atlanta, highs, lows. I think they beat the teams they should, and they're not going to beat the teams that people are like, oh, let's see if Atlanta. I still think that they're going to be a doormat come the end of the season. I don't know how long Devontae Freeman can sustain that aggressive running style. It beats the hell out of you. You see it with Ivory. You've seen it with Arian Foster. Gurley could be a victim of this. I mean, I know he's got the breakaway speed, but these guys that run hard and pound, it's just so taxing on the body over the course of the year. Frank Gore's a great example of that. And not that they can't have a great season, but it really is, it's a week-to-week game, week-to-week league in terms of the health with these guys. So, like I said, outside of the playoff picture, we got a slew of teams. Washington, Tampa, St. Louis, Seattle, Philadelphia, Chicago, New Orleans, all at 4 wins. The only team at 6 losses is New Orleans. Every other team has 5. So New Orleans on bye this week. I believe on bye this week. Not positive of that. We'll come back to that. I know that they've just fired the defensive coordinator, Rex Ryan. They just lost it. I mean, Kirk Cousins looked like Drew Brees of old, throwing 4 touchdown passes this past week against them. But here you go. Washington, who knows? I mean, everybody hates this team. It's the team nobody wants to watch on television. But 4-5, they're right in the mix. And they got the tiebreaker against Philadelphia. So still one game to be played, but they have the tiebreaker against Philly. You got Tampa. I like Tampa. I like, they put the nail in the coffin, it looked like last week against the Cowboys. Cowboys bottom of the barrel, by the way, in terms of the NFC. Last team in last. So I like what Tampa can do. I think that they're like the Raiders. They're a team that's on the cusp, but not there yet. Then you have St. Louis, already convincing wins over Arizona and Seattle. Can they sustain it? Can they get these wins on the road? It's yet to be seen. Seattle, you can't count this team out. If they get in, you don't want to play them. But can they get in? I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, it doesn't look like the wild card is going to come out of that division the way it stands now, especially when you have Green Bay and Atlanta both at 6-3. Something major is going to have to happen to one of those two teams. I mean, you're looking at a 2-game turnaround at this point. For Green Bay and Atlanta is going to have to fall out, and then a team like St. Louis, Seattle, Philadelphia is going to have to drive in, and it's not going to be easy. So Seattle, if they make it, great. They're going to cause teams trouble, but not a sold thing. Philadelphia, team that just continues to let me down week in, week out. I pick them, I pick against them. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I know that's how the game is, but it seems to me like they don't play well against the teams they should beat, and they play well against the teams they maybe shouldn't beat. Not that the record necessarily indicates that, but the way that they've played tells me, I mean, they should have beat a Dolphins team at home in which you had a 16-3 lead this weekend. You should do that. That should happen, especially with the pieces they have in place. Offensively, defensively, certainly sound. Fletcher Cox all over the place for them. So Philadelphia, a team that could drive, but they haven't showed me anything. Chicago, Jay Cutler, born again. 4-5 doesn't seem to be an easy road for them. They're sitting at that 12 spot. A lot of things could happen, but right now they've won 2 in a row. They went Monday night, San Diego, they won. Then they come back on a short week, go to St. Louis, put up a very convincing effort against a Rams defense people were pretty high on. So who knows? It's the mix is great, but teams that I like over there, I like Seattle, I like St. Louis, I like Tampa Bay. The others I'm just not sold on. So that's the midweek migraine. In terms of what we got coming up, let's see if I could tell you guys what I'm going to pick on the 1 o'clocks here, just in terms of games. I'll probably pick that Texans-Jets game. There's a lot of implications on that. I also like the Bucks-Eagles game. Some playoff implications on that. In terms of the 4 o'clocks, you have Packers-Vikings. That's going to be a great game to pick. And then I'll also pick, it's kind of ugly, the 4 o'clock games. What are we going to do here? Maybe we'll pick the 49ers and the Seahawks. I mean, that's a huge line, so that should be a tough game to pick. Seahawks given 13. And then Sunday night, Bengals-Cardinals. Monday night, Bills-Patriots. You guys have been great. I love the feedback. I love the comments. It's going to get better. As we go, it's going to get better. In terms of me, I just started to face, this is going up on YouTube first. So this is the first time I've done something to YouTube. So bear with me. We're getting there. The comments are great. The feedback is great. The support is great. The ball busting you guys do is great. The text messages I get, sometimes I burst out laughing when I'm in a meeting or something. So guys, keep it up. Great things. And other than that, Midweek Madness, we'll do it every Wednesday. We'll talk about what happened last week, what we like for the week to come in terms of this week. We kind of did a playoff picture. Next week, we'll see if we can start talking matchups as it gets really down to that nitty gritty. But thanks for following, guys. And if you have any questions, follow me on Facebook at Travis Auty, YouTube at Travis Auty. Then we have Twitter at Travis_Auty, at Travis_Auty. And then Instagram is CT Auty. So you guys heard it here first. Midweek migraines, and we'll keep it going. Thanks for following. God bless everybody.